What I have here is a Lenovo Slim. It's the Lenovo 7 Slim Gen 7, so it's the newest model. I think it came out in just a couple months ago in the summer of 2022. I've seen actually a fair number of reviews of it, but they tend to not be user reviews. They're kind of just spewing out stats and that, and you know, kind of just saying it's good, it's bad, whatever. I'm actually going to test this out and give my overall breakdown. One thing that I'm going to do is the 6800S the 6800S GPU that's in this. I've seen, like, you know, they throw up a couple little snips on a lot of these videos, but a lot of the benchmarks that I've seen, which there's actually very few, are done on the G14. This has the same graphics processor as the G14, but I think it will have a little bit better cooling than the G14. But either way, those drivers have matured quite a bit. And so, you know, when a lot of those videos came out in the early spring, those would have been when the drivers were relatively fresh. So I'm going to test this out and, you know, see how it's actually performing in games too, quite a bit more than some of these videos that I've seen. Surprisingly small power brick, because I think it's 230 watts, and it's actually surprisingly small, all things considered. Right off the bat, I can already feel this is pretty slim. Okay, so there we go. I have a video on the Legion 7 Gen 7 and the AMD version. You can check it out on my channel. This looks identical from the top down. I would be able to tell the difference. However, it is a lot thinner. That laptop was, I wouldn't say it's thick, but it's definitely a heavy laptop. You can see my video on that. It's heavy. It's like 6 pounds, somewhere around there. But it's fairly heavy. This here is metal. Feels really, really nice. If you compare it to that, it's not light. I mean, you can see the other people's videos. You know, I think it's 4.5 pounds, more or less. Definitely not a light laptop, like, but it's slim. That's the thing. You can look and do comparisons there. It's fairly slim. You know, here's like a, there, I'll do a comparison there. There's an SSD. It's hard to gauge these things without looking at it, so you can see that there. With includes the bottom, when you include the bottom, you know, it's two SSD. I would say it's roughly 2 SSDs thick, not even the whole thing. So it's not a thick laptop. If you've seen my video on the Legion 7 or anyone else's, you know, you can see it has these nice designs up here. So it does stick out a little bit, which I was worried about past the screen, but that actually brings the screen closer to you, which is nice. I'll just go over the ports real quick in case you haven't seen other people's videos. Nice exhausts there, exhausts here as well. So you're going to actually move a lot of air out of this despite being slim. Power, USB, 2 USB-A, HDMI, 2 USB-C. These are 3.1, 3.2 Gen 2. So they're fast, but they're not USB 4, unfortunately. Like the Legion 7 Gen 7 that I have a video on has a USB 4 port. I think it has 2 actually. This does not. So using it with a dock or something, you could use it with a dock like this, but you're not going to get the same bandwidth where you can output like 4K video and a bunch of other things at the same. It basically looks like the Legion 7 Gen 7 that I had, but it's thinner. Other than that, you know, if somebody were to just walk by and I were to just glance at it, I would think it's the same laptop, but it's definitely thinner. So if you've seen that one, very premium. It's not light. If you're looking for a super light laptop to take with you to class and portability is king, this is not the laptop for you. I'm sorry. This is a 16-inch laptop. You're going to want to go with something a little slimmer, but this is a perfect balance from the weight that I see. So they were 16:9 aspect ratio. These are a little bit taller because these are 16:10, so they're 16-inch. So it has basically the same form factor, slightly taller, but you get more screen, basically, a little bit. Trackpad is nice and large here, smooth. These here are not speakers. They look like speakers. Speakers fired down. Webcam up here. So that's just the form factor. All metal design, feels very premium. And you can see those buttons there that tell you exactly where it goes, which is actually really nice. So there we go. The specs on this here, it has a 6800H processor. You can put it up to a 6900H. I just didn't go with that one because the difference is going to be pretty marginal between a 6800 and 6900, and it did add like $200. So 6800H from AMD, which is quite powerful. It has the RDNA graphics, which is RDNA 2 graphics, which is 680M. So actually the iGPU on this, you could game with it. It's actually quite powerful. So for day-to-day use, you can throw it into discrete, take it out of discrete graphics and just use the iGPU, get more battery, and you're actually going to get quite functional integrated graphics, which is nice. to shift myself over. That's the one thing. It's slightly off-centered with the trackpad, so you kind of have to type right here, which is a little different for some people because there's a number pad, obviously. Yeah, so I think pads have the best keyboards on the market. They always have. Even the more modern ones, they're still really nice keyboards. This is the second best keyboard on the market. The ones that are in the Legion and typically like the Idea pads. Some of the thicker Idea pads have a very similar keyboard. It feels very nice to type on. Some people, they just brush over the typing experience, but if you're getting a laptop, it's probably going to be used for productivity. You are going to be typing quite a bit. This is a very nice typing experience. Very accurate when you're typing on it, and there's a lot of, you can actually feel the tactility of the keys when you're typing. So it feels really nice. But that's really nice. The trackpads on these are really nice. They feel nice. They're super precise. Lenovo makes great trackpads. The click is nice. I don't really know any laptops that have better trackpads. Asus is about the same. Their trackpads are also really nice. It has all kinds of RGB stuff you can turn on and off. I don't know how to do it yet, but you can, go through settings like that pretty quickly. Just turn it up and down. One cool feature here, I'm sure other videos have talked about it, when you hit the function key, it tells you the keys that you can associate with function. So looks like there's 5 defaults or something you can save there, and there's all kinds of stuff, print screens, and that tells you specifically what you can do. So let's just look at the bloatware right off the bat. So we'll just go into programs here, and we'll see what kind of bloatware is on here. I'm sure there's lots of it. Probably, I can see McAfee right there. So let's see. Legion Arena. There's some things that you can control the lights with. You can remove these if you don't want them. You can keep them. I'll keep them on here for now. Smart noise cancellation, I've heard, is fine. I think that actually runs through the GPU, interestingly. Not sure. Lenovo Vantage software is critical. You don't want to get rid of this. It's very important. It tells you, your performance in that. Hybrid mode, you can turn off the iGPU. So if you turn it on, what it is right now, when I'm not using software that requires a dedicated GPU, it's going to be using the AMD integrated graphics that's built into the CPU. And AMD 6000 series, so this is a 1600H, but all of the AMD 6000 series have very powerful iGPUs, vastly more powerful than the Intel variants. So you can game on them. That's what the Steam Deck runs on, a modified version of the 6000 series. So if you watch my Asus VivoBook review, you can game AAA gaming, even at medium settings at 1080p with the integrated graphics on that. So you could just turn off the GPU and just, if you're playing more simple games, and just use the integrated graphics and get incredible performance, and you'll be totally fine. But really, you're going to leave hybrid mode on, and then it's going to turn on when it needs it, or you can turn it off and just have full bore 6800S graphics going all the time. But that's going to kill your battery life. And as I said, because the iGPU is so competent on these chips, there's other things you can do here. Turn off Wi-Fi security. You can update that stuff through here rather than Windows if you can. So get it from here or download it directly. There's other important settings in here like power. You can have it so that your laptop charges faster, which I don't like. I actually turned this on conservation mode, and if you're going to be plugging in your laptop all the time, it will only charge up to 75 or 80%, which is great because that helps prevent battery wear and tear. So, if you're not plugging it in, if you're just going to take it home, plug it in, take it with you for the day, turn this off, because then you're going to get 100% battery. You can use it for the day. But if you're going to be using your battery plugged in quite a bit, you want to turn that on to help save battery life. Another important thing in this Lenovo Vantage is the power modes, which you can do. I think you can do function Q and change it. Yeah, there it is. But you can do it in the software too. So you can either do function Q or use it here. That's quiet mode, which keeps the fans off. You might get slightly higher temps, but it will throttle, obviously. You can go into balance mode here, which kind of switches depending on what you're doing. Or if you're just going to be gaming, just throw it in performance mode and you'll be fine. So that's kind of a nice software to have here. These other things I turn off, like network boost and all that kind of stuff. But this is a very important software. You're going to want to keep this one for updating. Let's see what other Lenovo stuff is on here. So there's the hotkeys, which I can't remember what this does. Let's look at this. Oh, this allows you, this is for like function keys. So you can change the refresh rate of your monitor. Let's see what it comes default here. Okay. So 1600p resolution. It's nice and bright, like I said. And then we can come in here and let's check. So it starts off at 165. Function R. Let's see what happens if we do that. So if you do function R, it's going to drop your frame rate, your refresh rate down to 60, which is good if you want to save battery life and you're taking this to school with you. Turn the brightness. You don't need it max. Turn it down a little bit, but you can also turn this down to 60 hertz, which will actually impact battery life quite a bit. You're going to want to leave AMD Radeon software. That's going to be for the CPU and the GPU in this case. You're going to need that. You can tweak a lot of settings in there. I'll get that loaded up while we work. But that's where you're going to update your drivers. McAfee you're going to want to remove immediately because it is a virus, more or less. And not less, actually more. So we'll get rid of that instantly. There's no point in having this on a laptop. This is something that I'm going to be updating the storage on this, and I'm going to be putting in a 2 terabyte SSD. So the thing is, you're going to reinstall Windows. This is something that people sometimes forget. You have wallpapers that are often provided with your your laptop. This one has a cool Legion laptop. You can find them online, but typically you're going to want to pull those off before you get rid of them, before you reinstall Windows. So in this case, most cases it's in Windows, and then you go into Web. I don't know if you can see that. You go into the Web folder, wallpaper, and then this one has Lenovo. And this is where all of your wallpapers are stored. So in this case, it's Lenovo, and it looks like there's 3 that come with it. Actually, I've never seen these 2 before. So I'm going to pull those off the system. You'll want to do the same thing when you, if you're going to install Windows. It really does just help kind of, you don't have to go online and try to find them. This is something that you might want to do. Just pull them off this way. All right, so let's just have a look at what the SSD actually is here. It looks like it's an SK Hynix, which most of the Legions I think use. I think a lot of Lenovo's in general use it, which is a good drive. It's a Gen 4 drive there, you can see. Obviously it's brand new. Let's check the speeds real quick. We'll do everything, just get a rough idea. But I'm going to be getting about half the speeds, unfortunately. So I can see that that's a very, very fast SSD. So if speeds are critical for you and 1 terabyte is enough, that's incredible. Start with 30. I'm going to go up a little louder. If you were wearing headphones, you might want to turn it down now. So that's 50. It's pretty loud to me. It's nice. Really nice and clear. Let's see how loud it gets. So that's pretty loud. Pretty good bass. Yeah, so for a slim laptop, this has good sound. I find a lot of gaming laptops have really bad audio, to be honest. I don't know if that's because people just wear headphones or they just... Yeah, that's actually really good, to be honest. It's nice and clear, and there's a lot of separation between the high end all the way down to the low end bass. It's really nice, actually. So those are good speakers. Some of the reviewers I heard, they didn't like the speakers. I don't know if the drivers are improved or... I don't know. These sound good. For a gaming laptop, they sound fantastic.
Open your eyes. This is Sony 4K. Beyond 4 times the resolution of 1920 by 1080, it will take you to another world.
Alright, so let's just have a look at some of these colors. Very vibrant screen, quite nice. It looks really beautiful, actually. Really, really nice. Comparable to some of my really high-end desktop screens. So that's really nice. The colors are nice. It's actually a really nice screen. Again, a lot of gaming laptops don't have good screens. This is a nice screen. Let's look at the blacks. This LG video is nice. I'm just coming off of an OLED screen, so... I mean, with an OLED, this would be complete darkness, like black, as the pixels are quite literally off. This doesn't compare to an OLED screen by any means. But the darks are nice. I don't see any bleed or anything like that. It is a nice screen. By any definition, in terms of IPS screen, this is really, really nice. good refresh rate, great colors, good darks, good contrast. It's not going to beat an OLED in terms of, you know, vibrancy and the darkness of the blacks, but it is a really nice screen, so I'm actually quite happy with that. Really, you're going to have to go with an OLED to beat it, I would say. So here's the webcam here. I'll throw the specs up on the screen while it's recording, but it actually looks pretty nice. For a laptop screen, it's really nice. They have that little notch on the top of the laptop if you look at it. So it does allow a bigger sensor, basically. And it looks pretty nice. I mean, it looks like it's, you know, recording at a decent refresh rate, and the colors look good. I don't look washed out. This is very bad lighting in this room. It's actually dark in here. I have all the lights off in the back, and basically my screen shining on me. But it looks pretty nice, so this is a good screen. Good camera, I would say. For a laptop, this is pretty much as good as you're going to get, I would say. Taking the bottom off here because I'm going to do some upgrades and have a look inside. Looks like it just uses Phillips head screws. Just doing that here. I actually got an LTT screwdriver in the other day. It's actually really nice. It's I've been using it for like tech stuff, obviously, but I also do other things like, you know, I've assembled hardware, assembled like a media console, and I did some driving some screws into wood and that with it. It's a good screwdriver. I really like it. It's expensive, but you know, you pay for what you get. Okay, so here's our first look inside. You can see there's an NVMe here underneath this drive, under this spot here, the Wi-Fi chip, and the RAM is here. So we get nice big fans here, big heat pipes here, so that's going to be really good. I believe the G14 has a vapor chamber, as far as I remember. This should perform really well in terms of the thermals. I'm not sure what's under there, probably nothing. Yeah, nothing really there. If you get an Intel model of this, you're going to have a second NVMe here, which is really nice for the Intel owners. There shouldn't be any issues with the hardware being able to support the second NVMe, because, I mean, I've seen the same specs with second NVMe. I don't know why they would have cut that out here, even at cost. Could be, you know, some shenanigans or something like that, but I find that often is the case that Intel variants are more likely to have a second NVMe drive. But that sucks. So you get on the AMD model, you get one NVMe here that you can use to upgrade. You can put in up to 4 terabytes probably. I don't think any higher. And you do have your RAM there. Nothing else you can do. On the Intel version, you'll have a second slot there. Another thing to consider here is that, at least on the Lenovo Canada website, you're not able to get the larger battery. This one here is the 68.5 watt-hour battery. There is a 99.9 watt-hour battery, same as the Legion 7, which gives you the maximum legal amount you can have, at least in Canada, and I think the US, just under 100 watts. It doesn't come as a configurable thing, which is unfortunate, but I've spoken to some people on Discord, and you can buy them. So that's what that extra bracket is there, and you'll get 99 watt-hour batteries. So you'll go from typical, so 71 is typical, 68 is rated or whatever. So you're going to go from 68 to 71 watt-hours up to 99, which would, you know, that's an extra 20-ish% or so, 20-25% more battery, which is really nice, actually. But you'd have to buy that on top. By the time you see this video, I don't know, or maybe in the region you're in, you can buy the 99 watt-hour battery. If you're able to configure this with that, I would get it, especially if you're getting the Intel model, because it's not going to be as good on battery. But regardless, you know, if you get the AMD version and you get that 99 watt-hour battery, you're going to get a lot of battery life. Okay, so we'll look at the NVMe here. I like this heatsink on there. It's like a heatsink shroud. I wonder if I can take that off. It also has a little like spacer on it. Yep, it looks like I can. So the reason is I'm actually going to put this 1 terabyte into my desktop computer, and that has cooling built into it, into the motherboard for the NVMe. So this is going to be a hot drive most likely, but where I'm putting it in my computer, it's going to be nice and cool. The 970 EVO is not an overly hot SSD. It's not a big deal, but yeah, free cooling, why not, right? This tape is kind of Okay. This is just kind of, there's just kind of a slot there. There you go. And that's the RAM there. Now, major consideration here. Like I said, there's 8 gigabytes soldered to the motherboard, and this is an 8 gigabyte chip. It's going to run in quad channel. Each DDR5 runs in dual channel on its own. So, you know, you could take this out and you're still going to get dual channel. But when they're paired up, they're going to run quad channel. Now, on the website, it only recommends you can add an additional 16. So that's 8 plus 16 gives you 24 gigabytes of RAM. So you'll have matching 16, which will give you quad channel, and the extra 8 will be in dual channel, which is fine. I'm going to try a 32 gigabyte kit here. I've been reading forums online. A lot of people have had issues with this specific laptop with Crucial memory and with a Kingston memory. I don't know about the any of the other brands, but I've seen a few stories where they used this specific kit here, Corsair Vengeance, and it worked. So there, now I have 40 gigabytes of RAM, whether it works or not. The reason that this may or may not work is there's things, this is kind of techie, but there's RAM timings and things like that, memory timings. And if they're off between what's soldered to the motherboard and what your system, what you're putting in your system, it can cause just system instability and wonkiness, and you can get lag, kind of just like where the system just hangs up a little bit for a moment or two. I may be even, applying a worse pace technically. So, don't comment on the video and say, you added worse pace. It's probably better at stock. I know that. I just want to open this up for the purpose of the video so people can see it, see what the pace is like on at least my model. Just put it that way. You can stop a process, but you can't fix it once you've broken something. So, like you see, I can feel resistance, but it's not abnormal at this point. I can feel the tape. There we go. Okay, so that is a pretty good paste job, actually. You can see there it's a nice spread. Some of the pieces came off, which is fine, but it looks like, a pretty good paste job, actually. So when you get this, I think you'll be fine to just not, mess around with the thermal paste. Let's just feel it. It's not dry by any means. This is a really new laptop, obviously. Thermal pads look like they're in great condition. Again, this is unnecessary. The only reason I did this is to show you what's going on inside. This is completely unnecessary. This is probably very high-end thermal paste, I would suspect. So when you get this, don't do the thermal paste unless you're having temperature issues. If you start to notice weird temperature issues, then you'll do it. At the end of my video, I'm going to do some gaming tests, and I'm going to have thermals. You can compare yours to mine. If your numbers are way out there, you probably have a thermal paste issue. Then you can open this up and repaste it or return it, whatever you're comfortable with. But it looks like they did a really good job on the thermal paste. Okay, and due to the wonkiness, I've decided to run a memory stress test just with this IDA 64. Just want to make sure that it doesn't crash when I'm maxing out memory and basically blasting it. So CPU looks like it's working. Not sure where the numbers are here, but whatever. Let's check our memory here, if I can find it. Oh, right there. Okay, so here's the Timespy score for the Legion. The CPU is 9000, which is a little higher actually than the Legion 5, obviously, because that's a 5800. This is a 6800. The graphics is lower. That's a 3070. This is a 6800S. They actually are comparable graphics cards, depending on the game and what the software is. 3D Mark Timespy actually does prefer NVIDIA. It favors NVIDIA quite a bit. So, but I just wanted to kind of get a bit of a baseline there. And really, what I'm interested in here is the temperatures. This can be compared against the G14, which is nice because it's the same specs more or less, other than TDP and things like that. So it looks like the GPU maxed out at 91. It averaged much lower, 65, 56, 58. But it looks like it maxed out at 91. And then at the hottest spot, and then it was pretty much 70, 75. So that's pretty cool, actually. It's definitely cooler than the G14. I can say that absolutely. Okay, so here we are in Cyberpunk. I'm intentionally recording this externally. People have asked me before why I don't do screen capture, because I'm not looking at I'm not a benchmarker. I don't want to know specifically how a GPU works in a void. I want to know what the user experience is. I always focus on user experience. So I want you to hear what I'm hearing in terms of the fan. I want you to see what I'm seeing in terms of the screen. It's a 6800S and people have benchmarked those specific GPUs, but I want to give you guys what it's like to actually use the device. So that's why I do it this way. So we're going to start here with ray tracing off, obviously. This is an AMD card and we're not going to have that cranked. So we're going to go with, let's go with medium first. Let's check the video size. So we'll start with 1440p, or in this case 1600p. We're going to go full screen, obviously. So that's 1600p, which is the native resolution of my screen. I can't remember if you can get this in a 1080p or 1200p cooler or anything under it. It's just running. And then one thing that I'm going to do is you'll see here that I can see right off the bat it's not in performance mode. It may not make a big difference, but we're going to go like that, and we're going to put it in performance mode. So now it's red, so technically the system will cool as needed, and you'll hear the fans go a bit louder. But yeah, so we have the FPS up here in the corner, and we'll check temperatures by going to hardware info. We'll kick out there. So to my eye, it looks great. I'm recording this at 60, so you should be able to see what I have. What I'm seeing, this screen is capable of 165 hertz, so we're not going to hit that, obviously. Yeah, we're sitting at about 45 frames per second on medium-high settings, native at 1400p, so that's good. I mean, there's no drops. You can see here it's basically nice and flat, and there's no hitches or anything like that. If I get into a massive firefight, we might see it, but we're looking at 45 frames per second or so. 40 to 45. Yeah, there's a little drop there down to 40, but this is still playable. This game you can play, like, if you're at 30 and it's consistent, it's playable. 40 is, relatively well playable. So you can hear the fans going. They're not overly noisy, but you can certainly hear them. It's a nice pitch to it. It's not irritating. Temperatures here on the CPU, it looks like we got up pretty warm, but we're sitting around 90-ish, which is fine. I mean, these AMD CPUs and Intel as well, nowadays they're fine sitting at 90. It's not going to cause any problems. Okay, so we're still at 1600p here, so 1440p equivalent basically, and we just have quality fidelity effects at quality. That's all we've done here. Let's see where we're at here. Yeah, so the FPS has jumped quite a bit just by throwing on quality, which is a very mild FSR. You can't visually see it, especially on a screen like this size, even though this is a 16-inch screen. And we're getting well above 60 now. Static above 60. So a lot of people are, I don't know, they rip on AMD Fidelity FX. I don't understand it. And I'm not one camp or the other, but games that do support Fidelity FX, you can just throw on a very mild, quality preset, and visually, especially on a laptop, if you're at 1440p or above, 4K, the games look fantastic. This looks great. Visually, I don't see any difference whatsoever. We'll go with high. We'll put that back to off for now. We'll just see how that looks. So now we're at high. So you can see there. But again, I am going to make sure that we have ray tracing off, yes, and I don't like motion blur, so we're going to turn that off. And we'll go back in. Okay, so now we're on high with no fidelity effects at all. No ray tracing either. At 1400 or 1600p. So still playable, we're above 30. This is like console playable. A lot of consoles still push around 30 as a goal. Especially the last gen stuff, like Switch and PS4 Pro and that. I prefer to play at 60. I'd rather kill the graphics a tiny little bit and play at 60. It just feels more natural. But this game, Cyberpunk, it doesn't need heavy FSR to be effective. It looks great regardless. Okay, so our FPS should jump. Yeah, now we're above 60. We're way above 60. See, it still looks nice and clean. So we basically more than doubled our FPS, frames per second, Yeah, we're sitting around 60. There's a couple dips, but we're at, I just called it 60 basically. So now we're at 60 FPS and 1600p on a slim, thin and light laptop. It's not an ultrabook, but it's certainly slim for a gaming laptop. All right, so I just want to give my my overall takeaway of this laptop. So I've been using it for about 3 weeks now, and I'm actually very impressed with it. So it's not a small laptop in terms of its area. It's a 16-inch laptop, so it has a large footprint. However, it is incredibly thin. It's hard to show on camera just how thin it is, but it is very, very thin. You're approaching the size of any of those like 16-inch ultrabooks. It's not going to be as small as a 13-inch ultrabook, obviously, but compared to like a 16-inch ultrabook, it is very thin. A lot of those productivity laptops, it's about the same size. The build quality is incredibly premium. It's all metal, and it's not like a cheap metal. It feels like a heavy, dense metal. It does add to the weight. It's not light. However, for a gaming laptop, again, 4.5 pounds. It's no different than some of those larger HP, those 16-inch HP laptops, those productivity ones. They're the same weight. They're 4.5 pounds. The difference is, a lot of times those laptops, they don't have a dedicated graphics. And if they do, you're typically getting like a 3050 or a 3050 Ti. If you're lucky, you'll get something like that. This is a 6800S, which is on par. It depends on the game. It depends how it runs, but it's an 8 gigabyte of VRAM, and it's going to run around somewhere between a 3060, a 3070, and sometimes even 3070 Ti, depending on the wattage of those GPUs. So it is a very, very good performing device. It has excellent battery life for the size. Again, it's not going to be the same as like an Ultrabook or a MacBook. Obviously, it's not even comparable to that. So people will look at it and say, well, it doesn't have 14 hours of battery life. Well, it's a gaming laptop. It just happens to be a super thin gaming laptop. Keyboard, absolutely killer. Really, really, really good keyboard. It feels excellent to type on. Trackpad is nice. The speakers on it are surprisingly good. I have a Legion 5 that I'm comparing it to, which has way worse speakers. For the size of this, it has the same speakers more or less as the full-size 7. It sounds fantastic. Beautiful screen. It's a really, really nice device. The price is fairly reasonable. Canadian, you're looking at, depending on sales, $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 Canadian in the end of 2022, which is not terrible, to be honest. Like a G14 from Asus is more expensive, and it's an inferior product in terms of performance. It's smaller, which is something you may want, but it's an inferior product, just plainly put. But either way, I think if you have the Intel model, if you want max performance when you're plugged in, and you're going to be using this primarily plugged in, you could get the Intel version, and you're going to get great performance, and that comes with a 3060. But in my opinion, that makes no sense. Why would you buy the thin and light portable one that you're going to be plugging in all the time? Honestly, if that's the case, you can go with like a Legion 5 or something and get more performance. Then you get a 3070 Ti or something like that, which will outperform this. 150 watt 3070 Ti will beat this without question. However, my takeaway is this is a really beautiful device. It performs excellent. It's a very premium feeling. The feeling of it, the sound, the picture, there's no compromises in it. It's overall a really, really good device. It's a little pricey, but the other competitors to this are things like the X16, which is just not as nice in my opinion. A lot of those like productivity laptops, which you just get a vastly inferior GPU out of them. So if that's something that you're interested in, go for it. If you're a heavy gamer and you're going to be plugged in a lot, I'd probably move you up to like the Legion 5 Pro or something. But for very mixed use laptop that has incredible gaming performance despite being very, very thin, this one's hard to beat.